Well, thank you all for joining us here today on our space teaching practice workshop. We're now 32 organisations in the network and 72 individual members. So the network has grown quite a bit in the past year. I'm not going to go through and list everybody, but that's who we've got. And obviously we work closely with the UK Space Agency and are grateful to them for a bit of funding from the Space for All initiative, which allows us to basically maintain the network. It just pays for the coordinator and the web space that we are running. We work closely with SEDS, so obviously they have a good link into our student body, particularly on the careers aspects and promoting space. So that's kind of who's in the network. We've now got this kind of setup of working groups. So we've got obviously us at the top of the chairs, coordinators. Andrew, who's standing at the back, is our network coordinator. So thank you to Andrew for all the work he puts in maintaining our network. And we have a web developer, and then we've got these working groups. So obviously funding. Lucy is the main responsible for making sure that we carry on having a bit of money for maintaining this network and keeping it going, which is great. Workshops, so where we are. So for the last 2 years, I've led on the workshops. I'm hoping one of my other co-workers in the working group will take over for next year. We've got the resources working group, which is headed up by Kate. So Kate at the back there, for anybody who wants to talk resources. So that is been developing all the things that you see on the website today, some of the kind of things we're going to talk about through the case studies. And then recently we've kind of established a Pacific group around industry liaison. So knowing that we need to understand the needs of our industry that we're feeding our graduates into, trying to see what they can help us with in the other direction. So hopefully they're going to build up a nice working group around that subject. So aims, obviously, creation of skilled workforce, sharing best practice, so workshops such as this one, relevant curricula, and again, that's part of where we want to liaise with industry so that we understand what their needs are and make sure that what we're teaching is relevant to them. And then we've kind of got our resources bank, so all the things that we have available to help ourselves in developing our teaching practice. Recently, so just last week, a request went out through UK Space asking for industry speakers. So I know that's something people struggle with sometimes, is we want someone to come from industry to talk to us. Where can I find these people? So on our resource bank, we've now added industry speakers. So as well as there being university guest lecturers, you'll start to see industry people that are willing to be contacted to come and talk. And since sending that out last week, we've already had 9 people signing up for that. So there are industry people out there who are willing to come and talk on our courses. So that's another aspect of the resources work that we're doing, which hopefully you will find useful. So hopefully you've all recognised this web page. So this is the web page of our resources. That's not going to work. So we've got the resource bank. We kind of link through relevant space courses, careers, outreach. So this is your one-stop shop for everything to do with the network. So we're now on our sure that should be first and second, not second and third. We have a first one.
Oh, we have the first one.
What was our first one? Oh, right, yeah. So anyway, so previous workshops, we had one at Manchester when the UK Space conference was on. Last year we went to Harwell and talked about downstream applications, and then we very much took the feedback from the Harwell event into our thinking when we were developing this workshop. So that's why we very much focus this one on teaching practice, so you hopefully can get something very tangible to take away with you. And we've tried to build in a lot more time for discussion. So after lunch, we have this discussion period, because that was another comment that we had from the last one, was they wanted more time to talk about the things they'd heard. So this morning, obviously I'm doing my bit. We're very grateful to the Institute of Physics for hosting us today and providing us lunch. And particularly we're very grateful to Mark for making all that happen. So thank you, Mark. So he's going to just give an introduction to the Institute of Physics, so we can understand whose lovely building we're in, what they're trying to do through their institute. And then we're going to talk about some of these specific case studies. So this is something that over the last year we've been building up as part of our resources. So we're going to look at 3 of those case studies, understand what they're about, so you can start to see how that might work. Now, the discussion period after lunch is your chance to then sit with the people that run these and ask deeper questions. So depending on how the timing goes, there may not be much time, if any time, for questions in the morning sessions, because you're going to have all the time after lunch to ask all those nitty-gritty questions about how do you actually do this, how does this actually work. Obviously, if there's a bit of time in the timing, people go quicker, then we might have the odd question just to stimulate those discussions in the afternoon. And then we've got our launch pad, so just a short period at the end before lunch. So anybody who's got something they want to talk about quickly. You'll see on the back of the agendas is a list of people who have already suggested things. But 3 of those are me, Lucy and Kate. So we're willing to step aside if other people would really like to talk about something. So feel free between now and when we get to that session. If you suddenly think, oh, I'd really just like the chance to ask or talk about for 2 minutes something, then feel free to come forward in that session. Then after lunch, so the way we're going to run the discussion groups is basically each of the people that have presented in the morning will occupy one of these tables. You can go to whichever table you want to find out more about that particular case study. And then probably about halfway through that period, we'll signal in some way. So if you want to go and talk about another one, then you can swap tables and go and talk to someone else. And equally, if you want to have side discussions, if you've heard something in one of these 2-minute pitches you really want to talk about, then feel free to kind of grab that person. And so this is the opportunity for having, finding out more that you want to find out, so that you feel like you go away from today having really got something for yourself. And then we're very pleased to have Jason from European Space Agency, who's talking about the ESA Lab at initiative. We heard very briefly about it from Nick at our previous workshop, and Jason is going to add some depth to that discussion. And obviously another opportunity, if you want to find out more, you can talk to Jason. So without further ado, I will hand over to Mark to introduce us to the IOP.